Hi everyone, Christoph the Polish Geek, and welcome to the video where I just want to tell you guys why I'm not touching the Acolyte show. Like, yeah, you've probably seen lots of YouTube videos popping up saying Star Wars is dead, like the Acolyte is trash. Well, yeah, but it's been going on for a long time at this point, and it's not like, and you probably have to be delusional to think the show would be any good. Like, Disney has ruined Star Wars, and I'm not saying there weren't good things that came out during the Disney time, like Season 7 of the Clone Wars is still one of the best show finales I've ever seen in the history, and one of the best Star Wars things I've ever seen, but at the same time, the more I think about it, the more you realize that the Clone Wars was actually going before the Disney acquisition of Star Wars, and if Disney never acquired Star Wars, we certainly still would get this incredible final season, but we would get even more arcs that were planned but ultimately were scrapped when Disney acquired Star Wars. So yes, Season 7 of the Clone Wars, you could basically make an argument that this is like the only work from the old original expanded universe, basically. And yes, I do love Star Wars Rebels, actually. Yeah, I know there are plenty of people who are not huge fans of the show, but yes, I do love Star Wars Rebels, and I did love the Bad Batch, but few good things doesn't take away from the bigger picture. Like, yes, I also used to love first two seasons of The Mandalorian, but with time I realized, yes, I still very much love the first season of The Mandalorian. The first season of The Mandalorian is awesome. Like, yeah, this basically Western feel of a lone gunslinger going on missions. Yes, the first season of The Mandalorian I still think is fantastic, but then season 2, I used to say it was so much better than season 1, but with time I realized that the final scene with Luke Skywalker made the show seem better than it actually was, but ultimately we're getting off track. Yeah, there certainly were some good things that came out during the Disney time of Star Wars, but then again, it doesn't take away from the bigger picture, be that overall Disney and Kennedy don't care for Star Wars, and I'm going to say I don't even think David Filoni does. Like, yes, I used to be one of those who very much praised David Filoni and said that he should replace Kathleen Kennedy, but with Ahsoka and season 3 of The Mandalorian and the fact that he did nothing to prevent the firing of Gina Carano, he basically showed his true colors. So now, before we get back to why I'm not watching The Acolyte and the overall state of Star Wars, now I will first tell you my history with Star Wars and how I became a fan. Because when I was a kid, Phantom Menace came out in cinemas. And obviously I was a little kid, so I didn't see it in cinemas, but I do remember how my father and my sister went to see it together, and then later on a cereal box there were like Star Wars characters, because there were like crystals with scenes from the movie on those crystals that you were basically collecting, and of course I got one of those crystals, and then also I was looking at the back of the cereal box seeing the characters. I remember there was Obi-Wan Kenobi, Qui-Gon Jinn, Darth Maul, Jar Jar Binks, Queen Amidala, Anakin Skywalker. Yes, I can remember all the characters that were on the back of that cereal and box, and I was already asking my father and my sister about those characters and saying who was whom and all, and then I immediately got so interested in the universe that I was begging to get me a VHS of this movie. So finally a VHS did ultimately come out, and my mom actually got it for me, and I watched it and I fell in love with the movie so much, and I already was, and then I heard that apparently 4, 5 and 6 were also there, but 2 and 3 weren't directed yet, but there was apparently 4, 5 and 6. So I immediately begged my family to go to the local VHS store. That VHS store actually used to be located somewhere close here. Actually, it's literally a walking distance from my house, from this very room this video is being made, but I mean it used to be, because it's no longer there at this point. It hasn't been for like 15 years or even more at this point. But yes, that's where the VHS store was located. So me and my dad walked there and we rented the original trilogy, and then I was even more in love with this universe. And then Attack of the Clones came out in theaters, so me and my dad went to see it. And then 2 years later, Revenge of the Sith came out, and that officially became my favorite Star Wars movie ever. Not anymore, now it's Empire Strikes Back, but yes, back then it was very much Revenge of the Sith when it came out in theaters. And not only that, I also started kind of digging into the expanded universe, although not the books so much because I've never been a huge reader. Yeah, I do think I should start reading more books, but back then I was never a huge reader back then, so my dig into the expanded universe was mostly through the video games. But I do remember that one of the video games that I played then was Knights of the Old Republic, and then around similar time, that's when Knights of the Republic, the Sith Lords came out, and then my dad immediately bought the Sith Lords for me, Knights of the Old Republic, the Sith Lords, and I beaten that game too. And yes, Knights of the Republic and Knights of the Republic, the Sith Lords were both incredible games, and I really loved them back then and still very much adore them now, and I actually think they're some of the best Star Wars stories ever. Possibly even better than any of the movies. I always very much adored Knights of the Old Republic video games. Never played the Old Republic, not much into multiplayer games, but still. And then I heard rumors about the third Knights of the Republic video game that sadly was cancelled, which is really a real shame because apparently it was going to be really awesome. Oh well. And then I played some other Star Wars video games like Jedi Academy, Jedi Outcast, also both really phenomenal games. I probably should review them actually someday. And then The Force Unleashed. Yep, my experience with the expanded universe was mostly through the video games. So yes, that's what I was a Star Wars fan. I really loved all the 6 movies and plenty of the video games, but that was as far as my love for Star Wars was because I was never reading really a lot of Star Wars books. And then many years later, that's when Disney acquired the rights of Star Wars. And on one hand, I was actually really excited that we were going to be getting like 7th, 8th and 9th episode installment. I was really excited for it, and when I heard it was going to be an entirely new story, I was like mixed. On one hand, I really love getting new stories, but at the same time, I was also worried what was going to happen to the expanded universe. Like, yeah, I didn't really want all those video games I loved so much to be like gone. Like, I was already worried. Like, we know what happened later, but we'll get to it soon. And then also, for some reason, I picked the Darth Plagueis novel because... So yes, that's the only Star Wars Expanded Universe novel I read, Darth Plagueis. And then I loved it so much. I thought it was so amazing, so incredible. Yeah, I really recommend Darth Plagueis novel. I think this is one of those Star Wars Expanded Universe books you definitely should read. And then I saw the announcement online that the Expanded Universe gone! And I was so pissed. Like, I was saying, okay, I understand that the removal of everything post Return of the Jedi, like they had to make room for the new movies, but Knights of the Republic that takes place 4,000 years before the movies, seriously, Darth Plagueis? But I still went to see Episode 7, The Force Awakens, with an open mind, because, and I'm not going to lie, I loved the movie when I first watched it. Like, nostalgia kicked in, and I really loved it so much. And not just me, plenty of people, but the more I've been watching it, the more I thought that I actually like it less and less. Although, whenever I was expressing it, people were saying, like, what? But, yeah, like, the more I was watching it, I liked it less and less, and, like, ultimately I thought it was just a plain rehash of A New Hope, like, nothing else. And then Last Jedi was announced, and plenty of people were looking forward to it, but I was already worried because the title kind of actually scared me away. And then I seen Last Jedi, and yeah, that's when I officially thought Star Wars was completely ruined. The one good thing I can say about The Last Jedi was that this was also a time where I was so hungry for some good Star Wars content that this is when I finally, for the first time ever, binged the Clone Wars show, and I was so much in love with that awesome show. And I even gave it a "you should be watching" treatment like a year ago. But yes, after I hated Last Jedi so much, just to wash away my taste from that trash, that's when I binged the Clone Wars for the first time, and I was so much in love with that show. And I also think season 7 of the Clone Wars is by far the best thing that came out during that Disney acquisition of Star Wars. Although, let's be honest, we will probably get it anyway and way earlier if Disney never acquired the rights. I mean, the animation maybe would not be as spectacular as it is, but oh well. We would also get plenty of more amazing arcs that were all scrapped, but ultimately, so this is my experience with Star Wars, and ultimately, as I said, there are some good things that came out during the Disney time of Star Wars, like season 7 of the Clone Wars, of course, although I already just said that this hardly even counts because this was actually planned way before the Disney acquisition, so I guess it's not the best example. But I do love all of those Star Wars Rebels, and I do love the Bad Batch, and I do love first season of The Mandalorian. I mean, I used to think season 2 was even better, but the more time has passed, the more time I realized that one scene with Luke Skywalker made us all basically think that the show is better than it actually is. But so yes, there are some good things that came out under Disney, but it still doesn't take away from the bigger picture that Kennedy basically ruined Star Wars, and that she doesn't care for Star Wars at all. And The Acolyte, I didn't even see the trailer when it came out. I mean, I saw the trailer much later actually, and then I realized that it was basically an embodiment of everything that's wrong with modern Star Wars. And when it comes to live action shows, as I said, I used to love first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, but at this point I only love the first season because with time I realized season 2 is actually not as good as it seems at first. And then Obi-Wan was an absolute trash, and so was Ahsoka. And Acolyte, even on the trailers alone, looks like the worst of them all. So I'm not watching The Acolyte. If you want to watch The Acolyte, good. I respect you for that. There is nothing wrong with that. If you want to watch it, go ahead. Your choice. I respect that. And even if you like it, that's fine. I respect your opinion, but I'm just telling you why I'm not touching The Acolyte. So ultimately, at least for my personal Star Wars canon, what I consider canon is, of course, all the original 6 movies plus the Clone Wars TV show, all my favorite video games, Knights of the Old Republic video games, Jedi Academy, Jedi Outcast, and Darth Plagueis novel, of course. And the only thing from the Disney canon that I will include in my personal canon is Star Wars Rebels and the Bad Batch. Yep, those 2 will be the only things from the Disney canon that I will include in my own personal canon. And I guess Tales of the Jedi, yes. Even though Tales of the Empire was trash, but yes. Tales of the Jedi, the Bad Batch, and Star Wars Rebels will be the only things from the Disney canon that I will include in my personal canon. See, the Clone Wars doesn't count because the Clone Wars is actually before Disney, so yes, that's what my personal Star Wars canon looks like. So, thank you ladies and gentlemen for checking out this video. Press the like button, please subscribe this channel. Are you gonna watch The Acolyte or are you with me on that? Talk to you soon, bye!